Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Mock Draft Season. The boys taking a look at a first-round NFL mock draft from Tom Fornelli of CBS Sports. This is not a chalky mock draft. There are going to be a lot of names that we're fighting over. The boys have had extensive conversations about J.J. McCarthy, where he should go. Really excited to get into that one. And y'all see Rock on the screen. That's when you really know mock draft season starting to ramp up. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. And many of the longtime listeners know the NFL draft is something that the boys absolutely love. We're going to continue to be doing mock drafts, individual team mock drafts for the next couple of weeks and months up until the draft. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section, specifically on the J.J. McCarthy debate that is about to the boys are going to go at it a little bit. So let us know in the comment section how you guys are feeling on this one. But Rock, I'm going to give you the T-box here. Caleb Williams going number 1 to the Chicago Bears. I know Drake May is nipping at Caleb Williams' heels in your quarterback rankings. Give us a little breakdown on Caleb Williams, Drake May, where you have those two guys matched up here.
Yeah, it's kind of like a 1A, 1B situation with Caleb and Drake May. Right now, I have Drake May as 1A, but it's not by a lot. I just think he can play within a system a little bit better than Caleb Williams likes to do. You know, he's trying to make plays with his legs, do a little bit of freestyling. Both of them can make any throw on the football field. I just like what I've seen from Drake May with less talent around him in the past couple of years. So, you know, Caleb Williams is a great pick, but you know, I'm fine with Drake May.
They're two core, and they're 1A, 1B for me, but I got Caleb Williams 1A and Drake May 1B. But I have the same concerns that you have with Caleb Williams, specifically from the 2023 film. I mean, you go back 12 months ago after Caleb Williams and the film that he put out in that 2022 season, he was freelancing. He was playing some backyard football, but it worked every single time. And I think you go to the 2023 season and you saw a quarterback that was kind of playing not really within the offense, not really within himself. You saw some turnovers. The offensive line protection was not great for Caleb Williams. You said it best. Two guys that can make all the throws, extremely talented arms, can extend plays. I have Caleb Williams 1 because I'm going to bet on that talent and bet on that 2022 film. But I guess I'll ask you too, Dill. Caleb Williams, Drake May. I got Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2.
I think I got Caleb Williams, too, as my number 1 guy. And again, I think it's razor tight. And frankly, I'm kind of with you. That 2023 season, I think, gave you more questions possibly about what Caleb Williams is, because it did get a little out of control. And it's good to be able to make the plays off schedule, if you will. But you do need to show something kind of in the system, being able to throw on time and be rhythmic. And you really never felt like that. Everything seemed really, really hard. And he's really talented, so he made it work to an extent. But I do think that's your one question is, like, you got to be able to play in the system. That's how the NFL works. There's really very few quarterbacks who can do it. And Patrick Mahomes, even, like, he makes them off schedule, but he can play in that system too. And that's the huge question.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have the ability to create, but you also, I mean, 80% of your snaps, 90% of your snaps are going to be structured throws. And Caleb Williams, that is the one question mark you have. Drake May going 2 to the Commanders, that pretty chalky. No one's arguing that. Marvin Harrison Jr., number 3 to the Patriots, best player available. I think if you're not interested in a quarterback at 3 for the Patriots, y'all have heard about Marvin Harrison Jr. We don't need to go into Marvin Harrison Jr. too much. Just a freak show wide receiver. Number 4, Olu Falu. That's where it gets interesting, and we can kind of have that debate. Offensive tackle 1. I got Joe Alt, offensive tackle 1. Olu 2. It's close. I'm a Joe Alt guy. Rock, what say you here?
You know, with Olu, if you're paying attention to a couple of the mock drafts from like Daniel Jeremiah and Dane Brugler, you see him falling right now. And it's kind of interesting because we started this draft process as, is it Joel or is it Olu? To me, as a prospect, I think he's, you know, a weapon on the offensive line. He plays with a super wide base and he can really move people off the line of scrimmage. So I love him as a prospect. I think he has even more room to grow. He's a young guy. I think he's only 20 years old, 21 years old. And he has all of the intangibles and the size measurements that you want out of a starting offensive tackle. So
before we get too deep into the tackle battle, is it not unfair to say Fuaga should be right up in there?
No,
when I watch Fuaga, best run blocker by a far, I'd say, of those three. Let's say those top three. I think that's kind of where I have it. But Fuaga can really move, and I think it was done a disservice that he played right tackle. But in terms of just a pure mover in how he sets up in pass pro, I think he'd be tackle one. I wouldn't bat an eye about that. I think he is the man. And I love Alton Fashanu. But in terms of just like kind of being a robotic pass blocker who kind of has the same looking set every play, I think he does that at a little bit higher level than the other two. I kind of have Fashanu. I have Fuaga as one.
Okay, so Fuaga one, and then Olu Joel Dill. Where does it come down for those two?
I probably have Alt a little higher just because I think the upside, I mean, just how long he is, how good of an athlete he is. I probably have him as one, but I just think Fuaga deserves his respect. What do you two? I think he's awesome.
Rock,
to your point, I think his play and his film has been just as good as the other guys. I pick 4 and 5 here. The issue with Fuaga is going to be his measurables. I think he has a little bit of shorter arm length. So some teams might say, hey, we can kick him inside the guard, and you don't want to spend a premium pick on a right guard. So, but I'm with you. I think Fuaga is the best mover out in space in the draft. As a run blocker, he's fantastic. I think he's better than Joe Alt, but it's not by much. So I'm in agreement with you. I think it's very close, and I definitely think he has the upper hand over Fashanu.
I can see Dill's blood boiling with the arm length conversations already coming through his skin right now.
You can play ball. You can play ball.
That is where Dill's been that 3 years running. If you can play ball, you can play ball. Number 6, Malik Neighbors, wide receiver 2. Dill, this is your guy. This is quite frankly my guy. I guess I'll start with Malik Neighbors. He's my wide receiver 2, and the reason why I think a lot of people are going to obsess about traits, long speed. At the NFL level, at the college level, it's a separation game. Can you separate? Can you run clean routes? Can you be a quarterback's best friend? You look at the wide receivers that are having success at the next level. They're all separators, right? Guys like Cooper Kupp, guys like Justin Jefferson. Malik Neighbors, I don't think is going to test poorly at the combine, but I'm already gearing myself up for people trying to knock Malik Neighbors down because he doesn't test as well as some other wide receivers. You turn on the film, you see a polished route runner, a guy that separates, phenomenal ball skills. I love Malik Neighbors as wide receiver 2, and quite frankly, a wide receiver 1 in almost every single draft class that doesn't include Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of room for him to grow. I mean, you kind of look at his 2022 season, like you saw, I mean, that wasn't like round 1 talent. And then 2023, he really vaults up, had a dominant year. I mean, you can't argue with the production. He was just every game was catching so many passes, so many yards. And I'm kind of with you in terms of just like ultra smooth movers. Like that's Malik Neighbors. And I also think he might be one of those like Chris Olave type guys who, again, maybe don't look as fast because they move really like they just move easy. I think he's going to run a lot faster than people think.
I do agree with that. I think he tests better than people give him credit for. All right, it's time. It's the main event. J.J. McCarthy, 7 to the Broncos. I'm going to give Rock the first word here on J.J. McCarthy. Give us 1, where you have him in your quarterback rankings, and then 2, how do we feel about him going top 10, number 7 to the Denver Broncos?
So I have JJ as my, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh my God.
Quarterback 6 behind Penix. You watch him play, and he's a great processor. He's got a great arm. He can make plays outside the pocket. He's got good running ability. But I think you're looking at a player with less production than Zach Wilson and similar traits to Zach Wilson coming out of BYU. And it might be the looks too. That might have something to do with it. One thing I will give him, he's definitely a better leader than Zach Wilson. So I could see some teams like the Broncos, who are a quarterback needy team, falling in love with a prospect like J.J. McCarthy. But to me, I think he's a year or 2 away from being a starter in the NFL.
Someone's going to fall in love with him. Like, as a Michigan fan, like I would take a bullet for J.J. McCarthy. There is going to be a GM and a head coach that fall in love with J.J. McCarthy. I think that question is, all right, what team is it going to be? Dill, bigger fan of J.J. McCarthy. I'll give you the second word here.
No, I'm a huge J.J. McCarthy fan. Like, I'm go blue all the way. I will say, I think it's really hard to just easily say you take him over Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix, just because, I mean, how dominant those guys were. And just, I mean, there is something to be said. It's like when you need to make every throw and it's crunched, like you have all the pressure on you to win every game, and they both kind of step up to the plate and do it. I think there is something to that. Those guys, they were those teams. They didn't have much else around them. J.J. McCarthy was on one of the better teams we've seen in college football in a while, in my mind. I love J.J. McCarthy. I think he's going to be a first-round player. I don't know that it's as obvious to me that he should go above those guys because I don't think you've seen enough to like you've seen so much from the other two guys. They were so.
There's been argument against that, and I'm a JJ McCarthy. I think I might be higher on JJ McCarthy than you are, Dale. And I think that are we going to penalize JJ McCarthy for being on a good football team in 2023? You ask about stepping up to the plate when it matters most. JJ McCarthy just won a national championship. He was the leader of that program the last 2 years, having Michigan's kind of the most successful Michigan seasons, 2 seasons that we've seen in a very long time. JJ McCarthy's a box checker. Good frame, big time arm. You see him make some phenomenal tight window throws. The only question that I have about JJ McCarthy is the production isn't there. The box scores aren't necessarily there. You put JJ McCarthy in that LSU offense, I'm not totally unconvinced that we're talking about JJ McCarthy.
I mean, there's one issue I think you probably seen with JJ, and that's being able to throw guys in stride. I think you have seen too many moments where not being able to hit guys exactly how you want to see it, throwing a little behind guys. That's the one thing. When guys are moving, I do feel like you've seen some moments where the accuracy isn't quite there. And that's not like – I think this QB room is really strong. That's part of why I think it's like, well, is he going to go that high? I mean, Jaden Daniels was awesome. Like, he did not make a ton of mistakes this year. And just, like, again, another guy, you can't argue with the production. Michael Penix, kind of same thing. Like, that Texas game is as good as quarterback play I've seen in college probably in my whole life. That's just, like, can't do it better than that.
That's a nice segue into – oh, Rock, what's up?
No, I just want to say, I mean, I think you hit it right on the head because you do have to look at these guys as prospects and not players. Like you said, putting J.J. McCarthy in a true air raid offense like an LSU with Malik Neighbors, with Brian Thomas, with that offensive line, I think you see a little bit better production and numbers. But I think he's a better processor than Jaden Daniels, who does want to run a lot of the time when he sees pressure in his face. So you can start looking at those, stats and everything. But when you really boil it down to the actual prospect, I think it's a lot closer than people think.
I'm with you. And that's a nice segue into Jaden Daniels, who diving into the 2023 film, like you kind of just assume you're going to see kind of what you said. And those are the concerns about Jaden Daniels, like processing, trying to just use his legs. Is he a college quarterback or is he an NFL guy? That's the question that you have with Jaden Daniels. In my mind, monster strides in that 2023 season, going through his progressions, extremely accurate, pushing the ball down to that deeper third. Again, the production was certainly there. He had 2 elite wide receivers that he was throwing to, who I'm sure we just talked about one of them. Where do you have Jaden Daniels in your quarterback rankings, Rocky?
I have him at 3 behind Caleb Williams. Like you said, I think he's the best runner of the football out of all of the quarterbacks.
Yes.
He has just as live of an arm as Caleb Williams and Drake May. Again, like I said, I think he's too quick to move on from his receivers. When you watch some of the tape, you have some guys wide open. He just decides to run it out of nowhere. So you'll see that on his tape. But, the thing that he has against him is he wasn't in a Michigan-style offense. He was in a true offense that allows him to really showcase his arm talent. And he did the most that he could with it. But, I mean, it's not always going to be your best friend in the NFL draft.
And I do think he got better with the processing in 2023, which I do. And then you talk about checking boxes. Like, I mean, very good athlete. He does have a phenomenal arm. Jaden Daniels is a riser for me. In my rankings, I got Caleb Williams, Drake May, and then I have Jaden Daniels and JJ McCarthy currently battling it out for that 3rd spot. And I think I'm leaning JJ, but I am a massive fan of Jaden Daniels too. And I don't think I'd be surprised to see those 4 quarterbacks go in the top 10 of this NFL draft. Number 9, Dill, your guy, Rome Odunze. I know what you're going to say already, so I'm just going to give you the floor. We'll have to debate it a little bit. Go at it.
I mean, I think for me, I think I have him at wide receiver 1. I think that size, the ability to take the top off the defenses, and the ability to run with the ball in his hand, like that to me is what separates him a little bit from Marvin Harrison. Is like he can take screens and be really productive. He can get over the top, go vertical, and he can run every route. That size, that ability, I just don't think you see that from any other wideout. And again, I know people say like, oh, he's in a pass happy offense, he'd get his. I mean, ultra productive. I don't know what's not to like about Rome Odunze. Like, what are you looking at? What doesn't he do?
Rock.
It's not what he doesn't do. I mean, I think he's a fantastic prospect. I have him at wide receiver 3 as of right now. It's tough. I think, how much better can he get? I think, he's got the size and the speed. He's not a true burner, but he has fantastic hands. I tweeted out a stat a couple months ago where I think this year he had 140 targets with 3 drops with an average depth of target of like 18 yards, which means, he's a target down the field and he doesn't drop anything. So, I could see the case for him being wide receiver 1. I don't really agree with it just because I think there's some real freaks at 1 and 2, which he's just not as much. So
exactly
I understand
where I'm at. This is not me. Again, Rome Odunze is probably a wide receiver. He's wide receiver 1 in the 2023 NFL draft class. Yeah. 100%. It's not that I'm hating on Rome as much as you're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. and a guy like Malik Neighbors. And I think Malik Neighbors and Rome, it's all 3 of those wide receivers. I think you could see in the top 10 like we just saw. It's less about what Rome can't do, like Rock said, and more just you're talking about some truly special wide receiver prospects.
I just think the complete nature of Rome Odunze's game is a little different. And again, he probably doesn't have some of the freaky traits, the freaky hands and body control that Marvin Harrison has, or the really excellent movement skills that Malik Neighbors has. But I don't think there's a hole in his game, and I think that makes you really dangerous, especially when you watch that Washington offense and where they lined him up.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right, number 10, Brock Bowers to the New York Jets. I think the question with Brock Bowers is not is he tight end 1 in this class. It's just when are you going to take a tight end in this class at top 10? Rock, I'll give you the floor here. I mean, I kind of view him less of a tight end and more just an offensive weapon. Are you comfortable, Brock Bowers, top 10 in the NFL draft?
I'm comfortable with it. There's going to be some people that are going to see his body type and his height and weight and say, that's not a typical 6'3", 240 pounds, not a typical size for a tight end. But you just watch the tape, put on the tape. It's not hard to see. What I will say is if I'm the Jets right here, you do need another, offensive weapon, but you really need an offensive tackle.
Yes.
A guard anywhere on the offensive line. So the fit wouldn't be where I pick him.
That's kind of where I'm at with Brock Bowers. Is the team drafting him or like, do you have bigger position concerns? Like, I'm not going to argue that you shouldn't take Brock Bowers because Brock Bowers is a phenomenal football player. It's more like, hey, I get you want to eat your dessert, but you got to eat your vegetables first. And I think that offensive line is probably a position that the New York Jets probably should be going after before they go get the flash. And Brock Bowers is kind of my take, but Brock Bowers, absolute stud. Dill, number 11, I'll let you take this one. Dallas Turner going to the Minnesota Vikings. I know you're very high on him. How are we feeling about it?
I have a very hard time seeing, frankly, both those edge rushers come off the board that late. I think they're both top 10 picks, such developed pass rushers. I'm fine with Dallas Turner being number 1. Just the amount of power he has in that frame, maybe not the size you kind of look for, but really powerful, really long arms, and just, ultra developed. He can rush on every level. He can go inside and out and use his hands well. He's going to be a top 10 pick in my mind, easy.
The size that you noted, the one knock on him is probably the size. He doesn't play small. I think it's a very similar conversation to Will Anderson last year. It's like, oh, maybe a little undersized. Well, you turn on the film, this guy doesn't play undersized. I really like this pick. I think Dallas Turner is my edge rusher 1, number 11. I think that'd be a very nice pick for the Minnesota Vikings. Number 12, Trey Arnold coming off as the first cornerback in this class. Rock, I know you have some takes on the cornerback position that you want to get off your chest. Trey Arnold going 1. You can tell us who you have as your cornerback 1, and then we talk about Trey Arnold here.
So, going back into my rankings of cornerbacks throughout the years, it's always been the trash talker. That's number 1. So I actually have I have Kamari Lassiter as my cornerback 1, which is definitely a hot take if you look at some of the pros big boards. But with Trey Arnold, I think you're getting a super physical corner. He can get grabby at times at the top of routes if he's losing a step on a receiver. But his physicality at the line of scrimmage, sniffing out screens, tackling is super impressive. So I'm a big fan. I don't see there's much separation between him and the other 3 guys that are typically at the top 5 cornerbacks for this year. But I wouldn't mind the pick.
And Cooper DeJean.
That's what I don't see.
I know you don't like it.
I have a 3rd round grade on Cooper DeJean. I think the scheme that he played in, where they're funneling all the receivers into the middle of the field. He's playing a lot of off man, a lot of zone. He's a great athlete. You can see it with his punt return ability, but I don't think he has the quick twitch and the long speed to stay with some of these, really athletic, crazy, speedy wide receivers in the NFL.
Cooper DeJean's a tough one because you're right. I mean, Iowa plays cover 2 every single play. Like, you haven't really seen him play much in man coverage. The thing with me is you're projecting. I think Cooper DeJean's a better athlete than you probably are giving him credit in my mind. And so I think he can play man coverage. You just haven't seen it on the film. And I think that's the question mark that you have with a guy like Cooper DeJean. But he has been dynamite for the Iowa Hawkeyes. He turns the ball over. Very, very good in that short area quickness department in my mind. I'm more of a Kool-Aid McKinstry guy as my cornerback too. But I can get with Cooper DeJean. This, for me, is a little bit rich as well. Another offensive tackle coming off the board, J.C. Latham. Dill, get you in on this one. How are we feeling, Dylan?
I mean, he's not going above Flog. I don't care. You can measure arms all you want. They don't move in the same world. I like J.C. Latham. I think he's a really, really good run blocker. I don't see him translating into being a really high-level NFL tackle. I think he's going to be really solid. I just don't think he moves like that type of way that you need to see from those guys who really translate and be awesome pros. He's really good, really strong, really can move guys off the ball, but not an elite mover and not elite length for that, or not elite size, I'd say, for that type of mover. It just doesn't feel like the guy from Ohio State from last year. Like, if you're going to move like that, you need to be like next level size. I just don't know if that's Latham.
DeJuan Jones, Rock, J.C. Latham.
I mean, he's 6'6", 360. To me, that's huge.
Pretty damn close to DeJuan Jones.
He was the first prospect that I watched this year. His power in the run game, the way he's able to displace defensive linemen is super impressive. In pass pro, he's very calm. I think sometimes he'll overset and he'll lunge, which leads him to being prone to losing inside moves from defensive tackles. But he's huge and he can move people, and I have no problem sticking him at guard or tackle. It's really pick your flavor with him.
I'm betting on the trades with JC. I'm betting on the trades with JC Latham and Amari Mims. And then the Talisi Fuaga conversations you want to, and Dill, you're a film guy versus a trades guy. I mean, JC Latham, I think Rock said it best, like freak show size with athleticism. Those are some traits that you can bet on. One of my personal favorites coming off the board at 15, Nate Wiggins. I'll take the lead on this one. 6'2", 185, going to burn it up in the 40. Box checker. Length is there. Long speed is there. The twitch is there. I am a massive Nate Wiggins fan. I'm not like, because trust me, I'm missing on a lot of prospects. Nate Wiggins, we've been on the Nate Wiggins train for a while at Clemson. Really like this pick. I want to move on to Johnny Newton coming off the board at 16. A little bit disappointed for me in the 2023 film. Rock, I know I don't remember where you have Johnny Newton. I'll give you the floor. For me, a little bit rich at 16.
I have him at 1B in terms of 3 techs behind Byron Murphy. In terms of fit for the Seahawks, I don't really understand it because they just traded for Leonard Williams, and I think he kind of owns that 3 tech position in Seattle. But as a player and as a prospect, his upper body is so strong and he is so quick off the line of scrimmage. The one thing I will say is sometimes when he's taking on double teams, he needs to do a little bit better of anchoring and taking on the run. So I love him as a prospect. I don't love the fit here though.
Pass rush juice from the inside, which is coveted. I'm a Byron Murphy guy too, and I think I'm taking Byron Murphy comfortably over Johnny Newton. Johnny Newton's more of an early day 2, late day 1 grade for me. Moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars at pick 17, Brian Thomas Jr. Rock, you have him as your number 2 wide receiver. Dill, I'll give you the floor first. Brian Thomas Jr.
This feels like about where he's going to be. I do think there's a bit of a separation with the top 3 just because I see those 3 as way more complete players. I mean, Brian Thomas, though, in terms of getting down the field and making contested catches, I don't think you've really seen that many guys in college who are better than him at that.
Rock?
Yeah, and just for clarification for those that are watching, I have not watched Malik Neighbors yet. I've watched 110 prospects, but I think he'll end up being my wide receiver 3, being Brian Thomas. But I think he's got rare size and speed. And when you look at him move, he doesn't move like he's 6'4", 205. He moves like he's 6'1", 195. It's really special to watch. He can go up and get the football, high points it very well. I think he could kind of develop his route tree a little bit better. But a team like the Jaguars could use someone like this. You know, they've been looking for a true wide receiver one, and I think that this would kind of fit that.
I'm out on Brian Thomas Jr. Like, it's just not my, and y'all know my flavor wide receiver. It's the separators. Why I'm so high on a guy like Malik Neighbors. You said it best for me, and I think you're right in the sense that he moves extremely well for his size. So I think the route tree could get developed a little bit more. I'm not like out on him like I was Jalen Hyatt last year. I mean, he's elite attacking the deeper third. I just want a little bit more separation in my wide receivers. But I can see a team really falling in love with what he can do, attacking that deeper third and being kind of that downfield threat. Talisi Fuaga at 18, Dill, you can go throw up in a wastebasket there. Pick 19, Jared Verse. I love Jared Verse. I think he's up there with the top edge rushers in this class. I mean, I know a lot, Dill. I know you have Latu as your number one guy. Rock, you have Chop Robinson, I believe, as your number one edge rusher right now. Jared Verse just gets disrespected, in my opinion. Like, you're talking about a guy that, yes, I'm 20% pass rush winner. He can get after the quarterback, but what he offers in the run game, with how he can shock offensive tackles, how he can get off the line, how he can get off blocks, make plays in the run game, that is something that I think gets under talked about when evaluating these edge rushers. I think, yes, you're drafting an edge rusher because you want to get pressure on the quarterback, but you also have to acknowledge that you need your edge rushers to be a force in the run game. Jared Verse, probably the best edge defender against the run in this class. I'm a huge fan of Jared Verse. I would be comfortable taking him in the top 15. This would be a nice pick for the LA Rams at 19.
Yeah,
I don't mind Jared Verse. I like the explosiveness in the hands. He's just not as flexible as the other guys in terms of being able to really dominate on the edge. And I think if you don't have the whole bag of tricks in your game to be a pass rusher, probably the best, or not probably, he is the best edge rush or run defender on that edge group. But I just don't see him as developed on the pass rush as Latu and Dallas Turner, who I think are just so dynamic. They're powerful in the same way, but I do think those two are much more smooth getting around the edge and being able to bend and be flexible there. And that's what separates those two for me in terms of why I have them as 1 and 2.
Yeah, and he's the best speed to power pass rusher in the draft. I mean, you see him physically dominate offensive tackles. He kind of was, back and forth with Graham Barton this year against Duke. And he's a little bit older of a prospect. I think he's 24 years old and he's dealt with some injuries in his career. So it makes sense. I think he's probably my edge 4, I believe, right now. But I mean, he's so strong. So another alpha for LA on the defense.
Alpha male. Quinnen Mitchell, pick 20. I kind of gave you guys my take. I think he's comfortably a top 3 cornerback in this class. Nate Wiggins, Trey Arnold. I'm not quite there on Kamari Lassiter like Rock is, but I can get with it. I mean, Joey Porter Jr., Kool-Aid McKinstry, that's not a bad cornerback duo in Pittsburgh. Amari Mims, this is the traits versus film conversation. This is the definition of that, right? You haven't seen a ton from Amari Mims, battling injuries, didn't start his first 2 years at Georgia. The film when he's healthy is good. It's a small sample size. If you were building an offensive tackle in the lab, it's probably just a picture of Amari Mims. So now it's the question of, are you going to trust the small sample size, taking him in the not? Rock, I'll kick this one to you first. Amari Mims at 21 to the Dolphins.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you just said. Young, athletic, only 8 starts in his career. So you really just have to bank on the measurements and the intangibles. So I think sometimes as a player, his footwork was a little bit clunky. But that's going to happen when you've only started in college football 8 times. I think he's a great prospect, and maybe someone not like the Dolphins should pick him, someone who has kind of a stopgap with like the Cowboys that can have Tyron Smith, learn from him, and then next year take over as left tackle.
100% with you on that. I think the best landing spot is for him to go to a team that doesn't need him to start week 1 of that 2024 season. Dill, Amari Mims.
I have Mims a little above Latham. I kind of see him as, Mims a little bit more athletic in my mind, a little longer. I just think he is a little bit of a better prospect. Again, Latham's played a lot more, has been more impressive probably in aggregate. But if you're looking at traits, I think, again, Mims a little bit better feet, a little bit more upside on the feet. Again, Rockoff kind of said, not necessarily the perfect player yet, but I think you've seen enough from him to think that he could probably work out to be a far better player than Latham. I think Latham is what he is at this point. So those are the two I kind of have as that next group of tackles, but I think I have Mims a little higher.
Quinnen Mitchell going to the Philadelphia Eagles, draft or Senior Bowl darling, a guy that's going to test phenomenally well. Crazy. I think he's going to test well, but the numbers were absolutely phenomenal in Toledo. I believe he was targeted, and he only gave up a 35% completion percentage when targeted. Absolute dummy numbers, twitched up. I can get with this. I think the one question you have with Quinnen Mitchell is, all right, how's he going to match up against Power 5 wide receivers? Absolutely took those wide receivers for a walk in the park. I'm on board with Mitchell going in the first round here.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to enough tape between Quinnen and Mitchell. Yeah, I think, the Senior Bowl was obviously his time to shine. He really did show up. And in terms of the fit in Philadelphia, I think it's fantastic. Physical guy, can kind of press man a little bit and talk in the face of wide receivers.
Dill, I'll let you have the floor with Latu going 23.
Yeah, and this is just too low for me. I think, again, Latu and Turner to me are ultra good pass rushers. I think Latu, maybe I'd have him one. I think it's really tight with those two. I could go either way. But Latu, in terms of just being that all-around developed pass rusher that I was kind of saying you want to see, I think he's got that. Again, didn't really see a ton from him in the run. Really good quickness. Not necessarily a take-on blocks kind of guy in the run like a Jared Verse might be, but really good quickness. And I mean, you just can't teach that pass rushing ability and that flexibility and that smoothness that he's got.
He's a freak show. He's
also got everything. He's got every move, I feel like.
He's about as polished of a pass rusher as we've seen in a while. One question that you have to have is the medicals. Obviously, I think there will be some programs or teams that just aren't going to take him, but you want the best pure pass rusher in this class. I do think it is Latu. Again, you have question marks about the point of attack, but he's a special edge rusher. All right, Rock, I'll give you Dallas Cowboys getting Jordan Morgan. You're a Cowboys fan. How are we feeling?
Wouldn't be my pick. I think it's a little bit early for Jordan Morgan. I'm not as high on him as others seem to be. Measurables aren't great. I think his arms are a little bit short, and he does play on the right side. I don't think we really need a right tackle. Terrence Steele is coming off an ACL injury, and last year wasn't his best, but I anticipate him coming back full strength next year. So maybe you kick him inside at guard, but again, I don't see the fit. Yeah, I think he's a great athlete, super strong core. But again, don't see the fit with the Cowboys.
I think people are sleeping deep on Jordan Morgan in terms like you kind of look after those guys we just mentioned. I agree with like that top four up till we have it now. But at this point, I think there is only one guy left in terms of like looking the part athletically. I think like a guy like Kingsley Sumayata, interesting traits, but there probably is a level I'm looking at is, does he really have that ability to move the way you need to move to play left tackle? Jordan Morgan, again, I think he does have the athletic traits to play the way you want to see a guy play on the tackle spot. I think he moves really well. There is a lot of his game to clean up. I mean, it wasn't incredible tape, I wouldn't say, but I do think in terms of just looking at traits, he at least has the bones of what you need to be to have a tackle or be like a round one tackle. I'm not sure he goes that high, but I do think he's got the traits to be a good enough tackle if things work out. I just don't think he's as guaranteed as some of those other guys.
Shout out Dill for giving a long evaluation of
Jordan. I know you knew
that.
He's a pro at this.
As I battle the CBS Sports mock draft here. All right, getting down back to where we were here. We're going pick 25, Green Bay Packers. Rock Kamari Lassiter. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, cornerback one for me. Gets in the face of receivers. His burst, acceleration, and the way he can stay in the hip pocket of receivers is special. I've been waiting for the rest of the draft community to kind of catch up on him. It just hasn't happened. So I guess I'm just gonna be a lone wolf and die on this hill that Kamari Lassiter is CB1 for me. So yeah, I think that the only knock on him that I could see right now is his long speed. I think that his testing in the combine will be really important, maybe in pro day as well.
I agree. And I think that's the classic trust to fit, because I don't think he's the freak show of freak shows testing at the cornerback spot, but you do turn on the film and he was nails and he's physical at the line of scrimmage. I can get with it again at the cornerback spot. That's where I value a little bit more of the physical traits. Can you match up with some of the freak show wide receivers that you're going to see? Maybe it's not quite there with Lassiter, but you saw him do it at the highest level in the SEC. I'm going to put you right back on the spot again with Chop Robinson, who's also your number one edge rusher in this draft class. Chop Robinson, freaky get off. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, it hurt when he transferred from Maryland to Penn State. That was somebody that I was looking forward to watching for the next couple of years. But he has the best get off and pop off the line of scrimmage in the class. I mean, you watch some of his tape, and it's just insane. He's 2 steps ahead of the offensive tackle, and the tackle knows the snap count. It's pretty crazy. His upper body is super, super strong. I think what was overblown was his, sack numbers, his production in general. He just seemed to be a quarter of a step late on some sacks. And, in the Big Ten, there's a lot of guys getting the football out quick. The Iowa offense, a lot of run first team. So I think you put him in the NFL and you're going to see those sack numbers rise.
As a Michigan fan, you go back to the Michigan film, we had to stop throwing the football because we couldn't deal with Chop Robinson coming off the edge. He literally made us stop throwing the football in the second half. I'm a massive fan of Chop Robinson. I think that get off is absolutely freaky. You're looking at a guy that, again, a young prospect, juiced up. I can certainly get with this. And then
you just got to see him develop into that next step, though, because I feel like if he doesn't win with his first burst, then he doesn't always win. I think he needs to be a little more consistent in terms of what he does after, if a guy can catch up with him, which is hard in its own right.
I'm going to skip over Chris Braswell because I just saw the Bills. I forgot this was the mock draft that had Xavier Legette going to the Bills. I would be very upset as a Bills fan. And again, this is not me knocking Xavier Legette. You talk about the definition of not my type of wide receiver. That's Xavier Legette. This is a guy that averaged 20 yards per catch for South Carolina in 2023. Really the only year that he had much substantial production as a fifth-year senior, older prospect, 1 year of production, limited route tree. This is a guy that I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's DK Metcalf. He measures in at the Senior Bowl at 6'1" in a little bit of change. So he's not as big as we thought he was. Phenomenal working downfield. Great in those contested catch situations. These type of wide receivers in my mind historically don't translate to the NFL. And Xavier Legette as a first-round wide receiver with this wide receiver class in general seems extremely rich. I don't know what you guys feel about Xavier Legette. If y'all are higher on him than me, would love to hear the arguments.
Phil, you want to go?
You just can't be a jump ball reliant guy. I just don't see how that works. And you're right. That's kind of what he was. And also, I think the issue is you really only saw one good year. And again, South Carolina's had their ups and downs, let's say, but I do think that's concerning, especially when so much of it was kind of relying on big plays in just mossing guys, which I don't think you can just do at the NFL.
I'll give him credit for being good after the catch too, just physically imposing to bring down when he has the football in his hands. The way I think about it, and you saw South Carolina struggle with this too, is all right, how do we get this guy the football so we can operate after the catch if you can't create separation besides going down the field? You saw them trying to give him some end arounds, got some work out of the backfield. I think how they used him, signified the problem I have with him. This is a guy that you want to get the football to in space, let him be an athlete. He struggles to create separation and get to find that space. And so for me, I have some massive questions about Xavier Legette.
And if Keon Coleman's still on the board and you're looking for a field stretcher, I think that's a better route. I think he has more room to grow. He's a young player that has played basketball most of his life. So in my mind, I'd rather have Keon Coleman, but yeah, he's also not 6'3", he's 6'1". So
yeah, he's 6'1". The South Carolina just absolutely lying to us on his roster. TJ Tampa, a guy that I can certainly get behind. This is my kind of cornerback, right? A very, very long physical cornerback. Massive fan of what he did at Iowa State. I got to dive in to a little bit more film, but I'm a very big fan of TJ Tampa. But I want to get into Byron Murphy, who coming in at pick 30, I'll tell you this, I don't think he's going to go pick 30. I think he's going to be at the end of this process a top 20, top 15 guy. He's going to test off the charts in my mind. And when you start talking about combining the size with the athleticism, the ability to challenge offensive linemen with the power in his hands, but also the athleticism get off that he has, you're looking for interior defensive linemen that have juice rushing the passer that can impact pockets from that inside. That's Byron Murphy. I had Tavondre Sweat as my number one defensive lineman, and I'm going back and watching the film, and I'm like, I'm just going to bump up Byron Murphy because he's that guy in my mind.
No, Byron Murphy's such a freak. Just the way he moves at that size. Again, whatever. His height isn't going to be what people want it to be. But I mean, as dominant as of a player I've seen in college football, I don't want to say that's like overstating it, but from that inside, guys couldn't block him. He was way too quick. He's getting his hand. He gets guys' hands off him pretty effectively, and doesn't let that length be a problem. He just was really good.
Yeah, you turn on the tape and he's winning, half the time. It seems like he's always in the backfield. It's so impressive. His upper body, I saw some of his Instagram photos, and his biceps are bigger than two heads. It's nuts.
I've never seen someone carry 310 pounds like Byron Murphy. And that's what I'm talking about. Is like, he is 310 pounds, and his get off and the athleticism that he has is absolutely incredible. He checks so many boxes for me. And again, at 6'1", plays with good leverage. This is a guy that in my mind is going to be very good at the next level. Kansas City Chiefs coming in at pick 31. I don't know if we watched the same Super Bowl. Troy Franklin, this would be a phenomenal pick in my mind. You're talking about a wide receiver that I think he gets the narrative that he only works down the field. I watch the film and I see somebody who's a smooth mover, can create separation. He's my wide receiver 4. I'd take him over Keon Coleman. Certainly would take him over Xavier Legette, him and Brian Thomas battling it out there. Dylan, I know you're a big fan of Troy Franklin as well. I think this is a perfect fit in Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't totally get the narrative that he's a one-trick pony, only has the vertical threat, because again, you kind of saw he was the go-to guy in that offense. It wasn't like he was only used to get the ball downfield. When Bo Nix was like flushed, he was looking at Troy Franklin. I felt like they both were in sync in his ability to know where he was on the field, where he had to be to get the ball or to receive the ball from Nix. I just think he's a very impressive player. And again, I mean, he can get over the top on guys in a way that very few can, and you can't be one-on-one.
Yeah, to me, I'm kind of in the boat where, he can run a slant, he can get a screen, or he can run a go route. I just don't see the route tree, and it hasn't really progressed in his 3 years at Oregon. So, I'm not as excited about the prospects, but everyone has their flavor.
He is a little bit of a linear guy. I will give you that. I think there's more there. I'm very interested. I think he's more polished than a lot of people give him credit for, but he's going to be an interesting one. And rounding out this mock, Ennis Rackstraw from Missouri, massive fan. I think this would be a phenomenal pick for the 49ers at 32.
Yeah, he's a little bit thinner, but he's so sticky in man coverage. Yes. And he doesn't play like he's 185 pounds. He plays like he's 200 pounds at the line of scrimmage, frustrating wide receivers. He can improve his tackling ability. I think he's a little bit inconsistent tackling on the outside. But as a true man-to-man corner, he's really everything you're looking for.
Those Missouri corners were what you want to see, like heavy press man guys who really like to just go one-on-one and do what they had to do. I'm with Rob. I think Ennis Rackstraw is really good.
I like this cornerback class a lot. All right. That'll do it. First round NFL mock draft in the books. We'll be on plenty. We'll do some individual mock drafts. We'll look at a lot of first rounds. We'll do some first rounds as well. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If y'all made it 43 minutes, can't thank y'all enough. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.